Welcome to Native Yoga Toddcast. So happy you are here. My goal with this channel is to bring inspirational speakers to the mic in the field of yoga, massage, bodywork, and beyond. Follow us at Native Yoga and check us out at nativeyogacenter.com. All right, let's begin. Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to Native Yoga Toddcast. My name is Todd McLaughlin, and I am delighted to bring Nathan Thompson onto the show today. And I've been enjoying Nathan's work for quite some time now. He has a podcast called Escaping Samsara, which you can find on all the listening platforms. He has a Substack, escapingsamsara.substack.com. And he can also be found on Instagram at ESC Samsara. So I'll have those links in description. Click it, follow, and write him a message to let him know what you think. I really value the energy and time that Nathan has put into his self-care, his family, his Ashtanga yoga practice, his Buddhist meditation practices, the amount of different people he has studied with all around the world. He lives in Laos. He is active in daily practice and raising his family. And I just learned so much from listening to him and really enjoyed this conversation and episode. I hope you do as well. On that note, well, let's go ahead and begin. So excited to be here with Nathan Thompson. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you tell me how you're feeling?
Oh, hey Todd. This is totally weird for me because usually I'm on the other side of the mic, so it's both a privilege to speak with you and also an odd experience at the same time.
I understand that. You do amazing work with your podcast, Escaping Samsara. Everybody can find you in the links in the description on your Instagram and Substack page. I guess let's first start with escaping samsara. Let's pretend we have an audience that has no idea what the word samsara means. Can you explain what you mean by the title Escaping Samsara?
Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words. Escaping samsara was something that was a big part of what drove my practice, because I became into practice with two gifts, which has allowed me to continue practicing, discipline and desperation. So luckily I was born with a kind of discipline, that's never been too hard. I've never been one of those people that struggled to wake up early in the morning. So that's a gift I was given. I was also given the gift of desperation because I was addicted to drugs from the age of 16 to 24-ish. And by the age of 25, I was in rehab. And then I really struggled to stay clean after that. And when I came to practice Ashtanga and Buddhism, the idea of escaping samsara sounded great to me because as far as I was concerned, the world was just pure suffering. So in a way, I was pretty primed for Buddhism. When I came across it, I was all like, oh, thank you. Someone's actually speaking to me. It's not a kind of peace and love. It's no, life sucks. And this is how you're going to solve that problem. Yeah. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll sign up for that. And that drove my practice for a while, and it was a good reason to practice, I think. And when I started the podcast, I was just coming to the end of that, and Escaping Samsara seemed like quite a cool sort of way to encapsulate it. And then I had my first child, and I think that's when everything changed. I realized a connection with the world, and that the world was actually a beautiful place. Not that I didn't have fun before then, of course, but there was a deep sense of I don't know, angst, I suppose. And when I had my first child, I remember thinking, wow, I am actually connected to the universe, connected to the earth in a way I've never been before. And it was interesting at the time. I was also exploring Mahayana Buddhism, which is less about escaping samsara and realizing that samsara is actually just your untrained mind. And it's not about getting out of the world. And my understanding of it now is much more along those lines. So I'm still down for escaping samsara, but I understand samsara. Yeah. I understand samsara to be my own untrained mind as opposed to the world.
Yeah, great answer. Isn't it great I love how the evolution process, to hear about your evolution, the title that you chose. I appreciate that you're staying with the title, you know, in a sense of like, hey, let me honor where I was, and also honor the fact that I can evolve, change, shift, grow. That's really cool, man. So you said first child. Do you have more than one child?
Yeah, I got two, age 5 and 2.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
And yourself?
congratulations. I do. I have two, age 19 and 12.
Oh, okay. Wow. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's sort of a whole teenage thing. I'm sort of like both looking forward to it and dreading it.
It's not as bad as everybody says, but it is a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling you had of kind of like, you know, it's already challenging enough when they're in that younger age. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's challenging. So you hear people say, well, get ready, bigger children, bigger problems. And you're like, oh no, like, I don't know if I can take any more. But that's so cool, man. Well, where do you live?
I live in Laos.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
where are you from originally?
So originally from a town called Beaconsfield, which is very near London. I was born in London, so mostly London area, excuse me. Um, and in 2013, I moved to Cambodia. And yeah, I lived there and I met and married my wife there, and then we moved to Laos. We've been in Laos 5, 6 years now. But I do also include Thailand in my sort of living arrangement because I spend a lot of time in Thailand, like on retreat and working for a company in Thailand. I was often in Bangkok. So I sort of include like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos as my general living situation since 2013. But now I'm in Laos right now. So yeah.
Incredible. How do you like it? What is the feeling there?
Oh, I really appreciate living in Laos because it's a very small communist country that few people know, well, few people think about. And in that way, you're very insulated from a lot of the stuff you have to deal with in developed countries. So my wife's from Australia, so I visit Australia and England regularly. And there's a lot of angst. I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. And you are protected from that a little bit living in Laos, where um, sure, living in a communist dictatorship is bad, but also you're also sort of free from a lot of the kind of strife that can happen
That's
in
so interesting.
democracies that are struggling.
Oh, wow. We could go so many directions from here. I mean, well, I want to hear a little bit more about, in your experience, when you say it's difficult, can be difficult living in a communist country with a dictator. How do you see and feel that in your day-to-day experience? Because,
Well,
and
I
can you
mean,
juxtapose that between what the feeling is like in Thailand? I absolutely love Thailand. And I don't feel like, would you classify Thailand as a communist dictatorship? No, right? Or let me just hear, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
yeah, so basically, anyone who knows Laos will have to forgive me for talking a little bit glibly earlier. I was sort of coming at it from a sense of humor. If I'm being a bit more serious about it, then like I need to contextualize myself as I am like a privileged expat that lives in a privileged expat bubble in a communist society. The people who are actually born and live here, it's very different for them, right? Um, saying that, I'm not like they have problems and they have benefits that are different to the problems and benefits you live in America or England, right? And their society is a lot more kind of traditional, which again has like benefits and not so benefits, right? So it's harder for young people to sort of break out of their traditions and express themselves. There's not a lot of like artists and stuff like that. Like no, there's no graffiti, for example, just one example. Um, so that's like a downside. But then on the plus side, the society is a lot less narcissistic and a lot less, in general, worried about how they're coming across in terms of their appearance. I think that's something I notice. And I'm just speaking as an outside observer. Obviously, I'm not Lao. And I'm sure they deal with that on some level. But I think in general, as a vibe, you get a sense of like there's less of that like angst and having just one politically, people don't really, I don't know, I'm not really sure what to say about it, but basically they don't have the same kind of, I don't, I'm also privileged in the fact that I don't have to worry so much about my country going downhill because I don't live in my country, and
Mm, yeah.
that
Yeah.
allows me a certain freedom from the stress that I think people live with in the UK and Australia and America.
Wow. Thank you. Great, great insight. I'm so appreciative to hear this. Thank you. So, when did you first come across Ashtanga? You said at age 25, you had a turnaround experience of, let me try to evolve my path here. Was that when you started practicing yoga and coming across Buddhist meditation? What was the trajectory and timeline for your introduction to this world?
Yeah, so why don't I just go through the people who taught me, right? And I
Cool.
can go through in order because that might
All
be
right.
one way of looking at it.
Thank you.
So I started with Goenka courses. I'm sure you're familiar. It's my current meditation teacher has called Goenka the Starbucks of meditation, in a way that it's all over the world. Everyone gets the same thing. It's very high quality, no disrespect, good stuff. But Goenka was great for me. And probably the biggest thing when I started going to those courses was that it was donation only. And I was like a broke, just off drugs. Like when I walked into my first course, I actually threw my cigarettes away. And then 10 minutes, I threw them in the bin. And then like half an hour later, I was scrabbling through the bin and someone had emptied it. And I was like, oh God, no.
Oh, how
Yeah.
was that first 10 days in terms of withdrawals? Did you find it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be? Did
Well,
you?
I was off heroin in like about a month at that point. So I was clean
Wow.
off the drugs for a month. And
Yeah.
then I threw my cigarettes away and went in.
Yeah.
I had to be convinced to stay twice. Like two times I walked up to management. I was like, I need to get out of here,
Yeah.
like now.
Yeah.
And they luckily talked me down and I completed the course.
Congrats.
And when I walked out for the first time in 10 years, the loop that was in my brain of like, got to take drugs, how do I get drugs? It was gone. It was just gone for the first time in 10 years. And I remember walking out going, wow, this is actually works, you know?
Ah, yes.
And that actually lasted for about 2 weeks. So like obviously it's not a magic bullet and the want to take drugs did come back. But those 2 weeks were the longest time in 10 years that it hadn't been there. So I was convinced then that like, okay, this is my path and this is what I need to do to like get my life back on track. And I was also lucky that my parents were supporting me, letting me live at home, and I wasn't working. So I was able to practice 2 hours a day. And then every 3 months, I went and did another course. And then I was like serving a course. And so I did that for 3 years. So I went through a lot of courses in that time, and I definitely improved. And after like, I don't know, 6, 7 months or 10 months, I thought I would do yoga because I thought that might help me sit, right? And I came across Kina McGregor's old DVDs, the first one she put out. So big respect to Kino there for like putting out, because I didn't know anything about it. I just saw Ashtanga and I thought, well, at least that sounds like an Indian name. Like I want something vaguely authentic here. So I got those DVDs, and I learned by myself for maybe 4 or 5 months, 6 months, and I was quite lucky. I had already open hips and an open back genetically, so I didn't just immediately trash myself. Had quite tight hamstrings, you know. So I mean, I'm in a kind of Western male body, so in a lot of ways, and I was young. I was like 25, 26, and I had quite good upper body strength naturally. So I think I was quite genetically suited for Ashtanga, and I was at the right age for it. And after a few months, I walked into Hamish's Charlotte in London and was able to visit there for a little bit. So that's how I got into it. There's actually a lot more I could get into, but maybe if you want to stop there, or I can keep going. It's up to
Oh
you.
man, well yeah, there's so much stuff we can talk about. But I wanted to kind of still get this bird's eye view of your overall trajectory to where we are here today. So I'd love to continue listening to what your steps were here.
Yeah, so I got the opportunity to go and volunteer in a like mini NGO teaching monks English in Cambodia in 2013. And I was so ignorant. I thought Cambodia was in Africa at the time. I was like so like provincial. Um, yeah, and I didn't even care at the time. I don't care where it is. Like I've obviously got nothing going on in England. I was depressed. I made a mess out of my life, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
living at home
yeah.
with my parents. So I was like, yeah, get me out of here. So
Can I
like,
ask you, Nathan, then in relation to Goenka's story of being born in Burma, or no, being born in India, going to Burma, meeting his teacher U Ba Khin, going back to India teaching. So in that process of you practicing and taking courses, did you start to understand that sort of geography of like Theravada Buddhism versus Mahayana Buddhism and how the differences are there in relation to the approach?
No, not really. It's a while. I don't think I thought too deeply about it. The good thing about Goenka is, as you know, he makes it super ecumenical, and you don't have to believe anything or really understand much to get the effects. And I was getting really good effects. So I didn't really dive too deeply into it, although I did take his Satipatthana course at one point.
I've
So I
taken,
did have some understanding, but I
yeah.
really didn't know much about where it
Understood.
came from.
Okay, cool. I just, when you said Cambodia, I just didn't know if that's at some point that piece. But I'm guessing, well, let me let you continue on. So you got to Cambodia.
Yeah, so moved in. They had me stay at a temple because it was basically a new NGO that was set up by a woman who I knew through my brother, and her family were from that village. So she's Cambodian American, and she was going back to her mother's village, and I was going to be the English teacher, and she was going to set up this stuff to benefit the kids. So they didn't have anywhere for me to stay, so they just put me in the pagoda in the temple with the monks. So I was just like walked in, like started living with these monks in Cambodia, apparently to teach them English. I was not really prepared for any of this stuff. And luckily, she just took a shine to me. So again, I really was lucky to meet her. She was just like, "Hey, I love that you're interested in Buddhism. You're going to live with the monks. We're going to make this work and stuff." And then after a few months, she had to go home. There was some kind of family emergency, and I just ended up living at this temple by myself. And it was about that time I met my root teacher. Her name is Beth, and she's authorized by Gil Fronsdale. Maybe you've heard of him.
Do you say Rue teacher?
Root
Root.
teacher.
I'm sorry. Now I understand. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Now I misunderstood.
yeah,
Gotcha. No, those names I don't know those names. Please
yeah.
educate
So
me. Yeah.
Gil Fronsdale runs Insight Meditation Center in Redwood City, California.
Ah, which is a
So
part of
he's a
Spirit. Is that
senior.
a part of Spirit Rock? And
It's associated.
okay, got it.
Yeah. So she's authorized by him, and she lives in Cambodia. She's like a Zen nun, and she was doing stuff in Phnom Penh. She was running an organization to like help people with AIDS, right? So anyway, she just became my teacher, and is to this day, although she's getting on a bit now. Um, and then I just sort of lived in Cambodia, and I studied with her like every week, and she like really taught me the roots. That's why she's my root teacher, right? She taught me like the five precepts of Buddhism, which are basically the same as the yamas, really. Uh, and actually, you should like live by those. And it was about that time that I fully gave up alcohol as well. And also the paramis, which are the 10 perfections of character. So I had come from a very like, hey, let's meditate, like let's have results, let's be a meditator. But she actually taught me like, no, there's a whole lifestyle here, and you need to live that lifestyle like first thing, right? So she taught me that, and then at the same time, I was living with monks in this like rural, traditional Buddhist setting, so I understood really a lot about the culture and how like Buddhist people actually practice Buddhism, which is actually quite different to how it's practiced in the West, right? For I was the only person meditating in that temple, like no joke, and
Interesting.
that
Like,
was mind blowing to me at the time,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I was like, but Buddhism is only meditation, right? No, it's actually a whole thing. It's a whole religion.
do,
Not a lot of it isn't to do with meditation,
do you
right?
think they
So
were,
it was a big learning experience.
or do you think they would giggle a little bit behind you, or or with you about look how excited this Westerner is, or do you feel like they felt that was endearing, and did they appreciate your sincerity and interest?
I think on the most part they appreciated the sincerity and interest. Yeah,
Cool. I like hearing
yeah.
that. Yay. And so you were in Cambodia from 2013 until, and I feel like you kind of got me a little up to speed before in relation to where did you meet your wife?
Yeah, so after about 14 months living in the village, I moved to Phnom Penh and got a job as a journalist. And then I lived in Phnom Penh and did that. And I met my wife there maybe a year later.
Did you?
And we got married a few years after that, still in Cambodia. Yeah, she's
Wow,
from
cool.
Australia.
Very cool. Now, did you have
Yeah.
journalistic training slash study, or did you just kind of come in with a pen and paper and say, I'm ready, let's go?
I didn't formally study journalism, but I'd always been writing a lot. And, even as though I was an addict, I would earn money by like writing articles for magazines and newspapers and stuff. And when I went to Phnom Penh at the time, I was pretty lucky because in 2013 there was actually three very good high standard English language newspapers, daily newspapers in Phnom Penh, and two English language magazines. So I was able to get work with them, and then it just sort of built from there.
That's cool. How do you relate? How do you feel like your journalistic background is facilitating or helping your journalism that you're doing now? Do you look at your podcasts that you do because you interview those interested and fascinated in how their lives surrounded in yoga, Buddhism, meditation, and this whole world? What sort of skills have you been able to pick up from journalism that you're now able to apply to your podcast?
Um, well, I guess I'm used to interviewing people, so that helps. But like honestly, I think you're a great interviewer. I don't know if you have a journalist background, but
I
I
don't.
don't think I do a great job, to be honest. I think you do a fantastic job.
Oh,
You're well prepared. You listen, you ask questions and stuff. I'm a lot more fly by the seat of my pants type thing with it.
well, it's very kind
Yeah,
of you.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
so I don't think it's that special.
all right. I mean, so I guess from a journalism perspective, are there any key tenets that we should be following, or is it just be curious and try to be as truthful as possible? What sort of, in your own work, do you have any core tenets that you try to live by?
I mean, honestly, because so much of what we do is social media focused in terms of how we get the word out there. What I did a job. See, I actually quit being a journalist in around COVID, and then I got a job in PR. And actually, what I learned in PR is probably a little bit more relevant in terms of what you say online, how you present yourself. I think I use those skills more than
Mm,
journalism
mm,
per se.
that's interesting. What are you feeling currently with the climate that we're in? When you get asked questions that feel sticky and you're wondering, oh, how's this going to land? Is there any PR tips you could educate me on that you find are smart, designed for built to last type of strategy? I'm just curious.
I mean, you don't want to go anywhere controversial. That's the first rule of PR. It's just because I was working for a pretty big company, a finance company. So I can only speak for what works for a finance company, which also ironically somehow works quite well for a little podcast as well, which is like, yeah, like anything sensitive, just don't go there. I mean, and sure, like journalists can go there, but I'm not a journalist right now. I'm just doing a fun podcast about meditation. Like
Yeah,
going to like controversial political places, that's not my remit. And
yeah,
I'm totally within my rights to say, hey, that's not what I cover. I'm about escaping samsara here. I'm not about talking about whatever political hot potatoes going on right now. And I think you're there's nothing wrong with taking that position.
yeah.
Some people I think feel like they need to go there, like they have some kind of duty. But like, dude, there's training for that. There's people who go through years of school to be able to do that well. I think Keena McGregor's doing pretty well with it. I mean, she put out a podcast with a professional facilitator to like work through some of that stuff. I think that's an example of someone who doesn't have a background doing it well, but I think it can be a real minefield. And there's nothing wrong with just saying, hey, that's not my remit. I'm here to discuss this. And that's where I stand.
Yes, that's cool. I appreciate that. I hear you. Can you talk now a little bit about your evolution of thought regarding, like you said, you started with the Vipassana tradition through Goenka, and then you mentioned the word Mahayana. Can you first explain what Mahayana means to you?
Yeah. Just before we just go on to Mahayana, I should mention that my teacher, Beth, who's like was my main teacher, she taught Mahasi style Vipassana, which is also from Burma, uh, and it's different to Goenka style. it is based on the same root text, but there are quite a lot of key differences. And so I flipped from Goenka to Mahasi style, and I actually did Mahasi style for, it must have been when was it? It must have been 5 years, I would say. 5 years studying Mahasi style Vipassana. And
Interesting. I haven't heard of Mahasi style Vipassana. Can you outline some of the characteristics that differentiate the Goenka version from the Mahasi style?
yeah, so Goenka Goenka, his teacher was Ubakin, as we know. Ubakin was teaching in the 50s, kind of, I think, and Mahasi was kind of contemporaneous. Mahasi was a monk who also lived in Myanmar. I forget exactly where, but it might be Mandalay. And both of them came at the Buddhist texts with the idea of like basically bringing the texts to life in the modern world, where they had a lot of colonialism come in. There was a lot of scientific stuff. There was this kind of vibe, and India went through the same thing to like make their traditional techniques viable with science. And Goenka was very much in that kind of idea. Mahasi also did the same thing, and they both used the same text, which is the Satipatthana Sutta. So they both agree that the Satipatthana Sutta is perhaps one of the best meditation manuals in the Pali Canon for use by modern people. But they both came to different conclusions in how to interpret and teach it. For Goenka, basically the Satipatthana means the four foundations of mindfulness. So there's four ways to practice mindfulness. They are the body, the feelings, the mind, and then like the mind states. Now, if for Goenka, and very hardcore Goenka people might correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not 100% on this, but my understanding is that all four of these occur in the bodily sensations. So by scanning the body and doing bodily sensations, you're experiencing all four satipatthanas like at once, because nothing manifests that isn't a sensation in the body, which is true. So no, it's a great argument. I don't have a problem with it. That's a great way to practice. For Mahasi, he's more like, we're going to work with whatever satipatthana comes up in the moment. So if you're experiencing strong bodily sensations, then you observe the body. If you're experiencing strong emotions, you come away from the body, you observe the emotions. Same for thoughts, same for mind states. And really, that's the main difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. Do you feel like the Mahasi style is almost leaning a little more toward the Mahayana approach of samsara is nirvana?
No, they're
That's
both
still a very
staunchly
big.
Theravada.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
Mahasi was a traditional Theravada monk, Goenka, very traditional
Got it.
Theravada. I mean,
Got it.
Myanmar is a very traditional heartland of Theravada.
Yeah.
So their understanding would be Theravada based.
Got it.
And yeah.
Then can you help myself and the listener understand how you see difference between the Theravada and the Mahayana in the overall approach of perceiving the body and the mind?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I should caveat this by saying I'm not a scholar, and I'm just coming at it from a personal practice point of view
Thank
and a
you.
little bit of study that I've done.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, like the difference, wow. I think one of the key differences is the scope of practice. So Theravada is often criticized. Well, they use this pejorative term called the Hinayana, which means the smaller vehicle. Some people claim it's not pejorative, but it feels pejorative to me as a mostly
Yeah.
Theravada practitioner.
Yeah.
Anyway, and what they mean by that is we're talking about individual liberation here. So this is the whole escaping samsara thing, where it's all like, hey, you've got a human body in all the countless rebirths you could possibly have in the universe. You've hit like multiple lottery jackpots. Don't waste your time. Get the fuck out, right? Whereas Mahayana, it's
Yeah.
much more about practicing in community.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
what is my relationship with this other being? How can I be compassionate with this other being? And of course, the great vehicle is the whole point is to liberate all beings at the same time.
Yeah.
But what the Theravadins sometimes miss is they can take it a little bit literally, because I've heard Theravada monks say, do you know how long it's going to take to liberate every individual being in the universe? You're going to be in samsara for like 10 bazillion years. But really, if all experience is the play of your own mind, then by liberating every sentient being, you're essentially like liberating yourself. And that's the key sort of thing there.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
definitely dives a little bit deeper. Not to say that Theravada is not very deep, but I think philosophically it goes, it's more sophisticated, perhaps.
Great answer. Thank you so much. You know, when you made mention earlier that when you became a dad, you felt a unique shift in your connection to the earth and your experience in the world. Is that, would you relate or translate that experience with then your kind of expansion into, well, let me explore this Mahayana path? Was there, did those two things happen very close to each other? I'm just kind of curious about how, because I had a similar, with children, I had a similar sort of awakening of like, wow, my whole role in this experience has shifted, and just, absolute awe and desire to be as good as I can possibly be for my children. So I guess when you're talking about this sort of practicing in singularity versus community, and or the intention of singularity escaping versus being in community and being patient for everybody to go through this journey, do you feel like that is a similar element of parenthood?
That's a good point. The thing is, my understanding has changed, right? So when I had my first child, which was 2020, I still had like a fairly immature view of what the Theravada was really talking about. And I had sort of come to the conclusion that if you weren't a man and if you weren't a monk, then they were a little bit like, here, good luck, was their attitude. But that's not their attitude at all. I'm still mostly a Theravada practitioner, and my understanding's changed that actually Theravadins are very community focused. But it's very easy to get the wrong message. And even after many years of like
Mm,
kind of studying and living in these areas,
yeah.
I had still imbibed the message that you need to be a monk, and if you have a child, then like you're going to be stuck in samsara for like a bunch more lifetimes, and if you had better merit, then you would not have a child and you would be a monk, right? Your karma's not good enough. And that's kind of a shadow side of Theravada that I was got a bit hung up on. But I would like to say that like now my understanding is different, and I don't think Theravada is like that at all. I think Theravada is very community focused, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of room for family.
Yeah.
But at the time I had the child, I had my daughter, and there was just a lot of other stuff going on, right? Because it was COVID. I was very lucky that I had a good COVID experience because we were in Australia on a beach, and I know like like I was very lucky. Okay, I know a lot of people went through hell, and that was tough. And obviously it wasn't a barrel of laughs for us. I mean, we were stuck, and I couldn't leave the country and blah blah blah. But mostly it was in a good situation, and I basically came to the end of a cycle of practice of about 10 years doing Vipassana, where I really felt like a cycle complete. And then at the same time, I just sort of picked up a random YouTube course called The Vimala Kirti Experience by Michael Taft and MC Owens. And I still study with MC Owens to this day. He's great. Uh, it might still be on YouTube. And I just did that course, and it was supposed to be a kind of an introduction to the Mahayana. And so that happened just around I just randomly was doing it at the time my child was born. And
Mm.
so all these three things came together. It was like there was COVID, so everything was like super intense and energized. And then this whole cycle of practice for 10 years sort of came to an end. And then my whole role in the world was completely shifted because now I was a father. And then at the same time, the Mahayana like just came up and was all like, boom, like, hey, I'm Mahayana and I'm totally blowing your mind right now. And yeah, like, I mean, for example, I remember the moment when Michael Taft, who's a great meditation teacher, he was doing a guided meditation and he just said something like, let your sense of self melt like butter. And for some reason, that instruction just hit me. And something unclenched that had been clenched my whole life, right? And
Mm.
then I was suddenly like, boom, whoa, like, yeah, like the thing was sort of relaxed, whatever this thing is. And there was a lot of what was driving my practice, and this sense of separation sort of was definitely melted away. And, and then my child was there, and then that whole process started. So there was a lot of stuff happened. It was a very powerful time. I was also deeply involved in men's work as well. So I don't know if you know much about the men's work stuff, but I was part of this group. It was super intense. It was all shadow work. People were shouting at each other, crying, like beating the floor. It was like mad, like encounter work was happening at the same time. So yeah, it was crazy.
Oh man, well I hear you. I feel like we have to go through that sort of stuff to kind of process all the things we came across as children. And I hear you, man. Well, are you when you if you give advice to, say, you meet a 25-year-old that's just coming out of, say, a similar journey that you were on? I know there's a lot of probably we'll just say, well, men or women that are age 20 to 25 that are partying pretty hard. And you have that little moment of like, wait, okay, now's the time. I'm going to start focusing in a different direction. What sort of advice would you give that niche crew based off of what you've learned? If you could just give them a couple of words of wisdom advice, what do you think it would be?
I mean, are we talking about people who are like completely dysfunctional addicts, or people who are just like struggling with the partying?
Ooh, you're right. There's a distinction there. Let's kind of somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yeah, problematic partying, maybe.
All right. Yeah, good, nice middle word. I like that.
Yeah. Um,
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I really hope that you're enjoying this episode, and I just wanted to take a moment to announce a course that I'm really excited to release. It's a free course, and it's called 8 in 8, Learn 8-Limb Yoga in 8 Days. My goal is to help coach you along in the Ashtanga yoga practice in a way where we take just the sun salutations, the fundamental asanas, and the final breathing poses, break it down with some philosophy videos as well, explaining the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga in a very easy to use, friendly course that is totally free. Click the link below, check it out. Let me know what you think. All right, let's get back to the episode.
I'm just going to repeat what Ramdas said, which was instrumental for my journey. And I can probably quote him like near enough verbatim because this was so important for me to hear. But he said something like, when people come to me with addictions, I never say meet the addiction head on, because that's going to cause a backlash if you try to like push or change yourself from a top-down type approach. The mind will rebel. So what I say to people who come to me with addictions is take up a spiritual practice, take up something that will help you see yourself in a new way, and let the addiction fall away when it falls away.
Great
And I think
advice.
that advice was massive for me. Like,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, very
Yeah.
cool. How are you teaching yoga in Laos? Are you teaching Ashtanga?
No, I did a teacher training with Gregor Mele, but I've never really taught yoga. I've always just been a practitioner, although I am about to start a weekly meditation class.
Cool. Is that
Mm.
something that you're doing only in person, or are you doing it online or hybrid?
No, just at the local yoga studio. I'm just going to do once a week, and standard Buddhist meditation, I think. Yeah.
Cool. What was it like practicing with Gregor Mile? I love his books. I've never met him. Can you tell me what that was like?
Yeah, Gregor, for me, it was all about the pranayama, because I wanted to learn pranayama, and I sort of narrowed it down to a few teachers that I thought were qualified and sincere and also accessible. And I ended up studying with Gregor, and I did his whole 200-hour thing, which is great. Totally recommend it.
Amazing.
to this day, he is still my pranayama teacher. So I follow his system. His system's outlined in his book, The Breath of Yoga. It's a very good system. It's very well researched. And he learned a lot of it from B&S Iyengar. And then a lot of it is just his own study. And I've been practicing it now for 5 years. And I've had very good results with it. So when it comes to Gregor, I'm very much regarded as my pranayama teacher. And that's mostly where he sits in my life.
Very cool. His book is incredible. I'm about halfway through it, but I'm, like you said, I'm blown away by the research that he's put into it, and his sincerity of practice comes through when I read the book. It seems like, wow, this guy really is taking this incredible.
Yeah, you should have him on the podcast.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. I'll reach out to him. I'll reach out to him and mention you. And then I recently got a chance to interview Simon Borg-Olivier, and then right after I saw that you were in Australia. I believe maybe you weren't in Australia. I don't actually know where you were, but you got a chance to practice with them, and I was so excited to see that you got to meet him. Can you tell me a little bit about what your experience practicing with him was like?
I just visited him for a couple of hours at his house in Australia because
Cool.
I didn't really practice with him, but what I wanted to do specifically was learn his technique of doing Mahamudra, because I have done courses. I learned different ways to do Mahamudra. I learned from Robert Moses, who was on your podcast just recently.
Yeah. Isn't he amazing? I love Robert.
Oh,
he's so nice. What
yeah,
a nice.
Yeah, he's like the yoga Santa Claus. I've never told him that to his face, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
He is such a sweet, kind person. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I learned it from him, and I also learned it from Shandor Remete, the shadow yoga guy, and also Gregor. But Simon was doing it in a slightly different way that involved the tongue mudra, and I was copying his videos, but I always think it's so great if you can learn in person from someone, just because of the vibes. And I think in traditional India they might call it even Shaktipat, although I don't know if that term is appropriate, but there's something that's transferred when you're with a person. So that's why I did at the time drive, like it was a 4-hour round trip just to see him for a couple of hours. And I just wanted to learn that one specific technique. And it's not too dissimilar to what like Shandor and Robert Moses teach, but he does some fun stuff with the tongue, which I enjoy. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Nice. And how does your wife relate with you in relation to your passion and pursuit of meditation and yoga? Is she journeying along with you in terms of practice, or more are you guys, how do you relate on that level?
I mean, I'm really fortunate to be with my wife because she's just been so supportive, and I wasn't always earning money, and she was supporting me while I was doing quite a lot of practice, really. And the amount of time I've just been like, okay, I'm going to go on, and I'll be in India for 2 weeks. I'll also be on silent retreats, so you won't hear from me, but good luck with the kids. No, I don't think I've ever gone away for 2 weeks since we had kids, but definitely 10 days I've done. And she's been looking after the kids at home. And so she's so supportive. So
nice.
I definitely owe a lot to her. And in terms of her practice, I don't really want to speak for her in terms of her practice, but I will say that when we got married, we had a Buddhist ceremony, and as part of our vows, we took the Buddhist 5 precepts together. So the 5 precepts are like no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no taking intoxicants. And that has been like the basis for our marriage. And we both so we both practice along those lines, at least in our lifestyle.
Nice, Nathan. That's so cool to hear. It's funny because when the last time I had a chance to go sit a 10-day retreat was while my wife was pregnant with our daughter. So she'll be 13 soon. And so like after she came around, now anytime I'm like, hey, Tamara, I think I would really like to go away for it ends up being 12 days by the time you travel one down there. And she's like, and what, leave me with the studio and the kids? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
okay,
mean,
fair enough. I can wait. Right. I mean, that's kind of the journey with the children is like, it's so incredible to be present with them. And it goes by so fast. Like the fact that my son is off in college now, I just didn't ever think that was going to ever happen. I mean, I knew it, but you just kind of get so into the things that you're doing and it's so busy with the kids that, you just kind of don't think they're ever not going to be there with you. So I guess I really appreciate where you guys are at. That's cool. Your wife is so supportive and I feel the same way. I wouldn't want to, I'm just so grateful to have a strong partner. How do you approach that currently? Do you feel like that's shifted a little bit for you?
let me just,
Please.
I left out something as an
Tell
important
me.
bit of information.
Tell me.
We live in Laos. Childcare is very affordable. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that Gregor told me when I last spoke to him, which was just a couple of weeks ago, he said that when he can, he goes for a 1-day retreat every month. I can't believe, like, it's so obvious, but like no one's ever mentioned that to me before. And he's just like, look, if I can get, he just said, so he just goes away and takes 1 day and he practices 10 hours that day. And I'm like, wow, that's actually great. Because in a year, then you've done 12 days of like, really hardcore retreat work. I think that might be achievable for lots of people. So it's definitely something I'm going to try and do.
Yeah, that's good advice, Nathan. I agree with you on that. Why does it have to be, it's got to be all or nothing, right? Isn't that a funny approach? I saw a post that you did recently in relation to practicing first, second, third series, and then you were relating that, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, maybe a little physically exhausted. I'm going to put the advanced stuff on hold for a moment, maybe focus on a nice, short, easy, gentle practice. Can you tell me a little bit about what your journey has been with your evolution of how understanding how much you need to push and how much sometimes pushing almost becomes counterproductive?
Yeah. So Ashtanga, wow. I mean, I love Ashtanga, and I practiced 6 days a week in a pretty traditional way. Although I never had like a long-term teacher because I lived in Cambodia. There wasn't really a teacher there, not in Laos either. So I used to travel to Bali. I used to practice with Prem Carlisi when I could, and in Australia, I was lucky to study with Mark Togney, who's kind of still guides my practice now. And then also Ash Hope in Brisbane as well. But anyway, I didn't have much of a teacher, but I did have a little practice community and I was really committed. And I did the 6 days a week thing. And when I was early in my practice, I had my sights set on completing third series. I think maybe quite a few people have that. And after many years, like, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, I sort of had done third series. And I was like, yeah, just let's do fourth, let's just do fourth series. And I started doing that. I guess I was like lucky because like once I'd sorted out my hamstrings, I had the body that could do it. And also the motivation and I changed my lifestyle around in order to make that happen. And I really enjoyed it. I got loads out of it. I really think that the pranic Kundalini model makes the most sense for me in terms to describe what we're doing with Ashtanga. I think ultimately I understand Ashtanga best when I think of it as tapas. I think it really does like bake the body in that way to make it available and able to receive greater states of meditation. And obviously there's like tons of people in Thailand and Laos who've never done any yoga in their lives and have much better meditations than I do. But I think that it really helped me as a Westerner coming from like a very unhealthy background to sort my body out, not only physically in a scientific way, but also pranically. I had like a lot of crap like emotional crap. Like in second series was a big one for me. I used to just like lie in Shavasana and my whole body would just convulse and shake and I would be like sobbing, but not crying or feeling sad, but just sobbing all this trauma out of me, And when something works that well, you sort of think, hey, like I'm going to keep doing this. I'm just going to keep going. And my practice peaked last year because I wasn't working. I had a few months off, and Mark has fifth series. So he has got his own version of fifth series that he sort of cobbled together. I got a bit curious about fifth series. There's essentially a few teachers that have one. Matthew Sweeney's one, Mark is another. There is another one who has a fifth series, but I can't remember their name. And both Mark and Matthew are saying you're not allowed to share the sequence. So everyone suddenly gets all secretive about fifth series. I personally don't agree, but I have to respect my teacher, so I can't share the sequence. But I don't know why you have to be so secretive about it personally. Anyway, so I was learning fifth series, right? And I wasn't working, and I was having these 2-hour practices, and I was like peaking. But you know, I picked up some injuries along the way. I tore a meniscus a few years ago. That was just not getting that much better. I was getting like rotator cuff stuff. You know, I'm 41 now, so I was hitting 40, and I just got bored of like ignoring injuries, and I was just like, dude, I don't know how much longer I can just keep ignoring what my body's telling me. So I went to a physio. The physio said, you should go to the gym. So I started going to the gym, and I was like, oh wow, lifting weights is awesome. This is like giving me something Ashtanga's never given me. Like I feel stronger and more stable, and this is great. And since then, I've sort of been kind of trying to figure out where does Ashtanga sit. And then just recently, I went back to Krishnamacharya's work. You always got to go back to Krishnamacharya's work, you know, like if you're ever in doubt, go back and read some of that stuff. Yoga Rahasya is a good one. And I was looking through that, and he says, you know, when you're in the householder stage of life, your asana practice shouldn't be about expanding. It should be about maintaining, and you should be focused on pranayama and mudra. And like, I was like, yes, at that point. Like, there was just a big yes for me. I was like, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be, you know, making all kinds of life sacrifices so I can do fifth series when it's not even that good for me, when I could be doing a lot more pranayama, a lot more mudra, and a lot more meditation, which is actually where the juice is for me these days. So it's still a work in progress. I basically now the morning session, which is the one session I guarantee I can get every day, that is entirely devoted to pranayama, mudra, and meditation now. And now asana, unfortunately, my baby asana, my lovely asana, that has to just be relegated to the afternoon session, which may or may not happen. And I may have an hour, or I may have 90 minutes or whatever. And I just have to do what I can. Yeah. And it's a shame that I can't do everything, but I'm happy with the decision right now. And I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I can keep up my advanced practice, but I don't know how. I tell you, it's hard.
Oh man, Nathan, I hear you. Great answer. Oh my gosh. You know, wow, great insights. I couldn't agree more. I've gone through a similar trajectory.
You're about the same age, right?
I'm 10 years older. I'm a little 52 now, and yeah, my body just started to say, what are you doing with severe pain, you know? And so now I'm managing and not in severe pain, but because I'm honoring, and I just wasn't listening, you know, it was just so right in front of me. It was just in front of me in the sense in me, like I was feeling pain. But I just had this thought that I had to just somehow keep going. And I pushed myself into a place where it became so painful, I had no choice but to listen. So I'm so grateful, so thankful for it now. But in the time being, it was, my whole world felt like it was crumbling, you know, like just earthquake type of experience, you know? So, oh man, these little journeys that we go through with all this is just so fascinating. I really love hearing. For me, it's so inspirational to hear your story because I'm not alone. Other people are going through it, so I love hearing that. I'm incredibly inspired how you've been able to kick a very difficult drug that a lot of people aren't able to come back from. The stats on the people that are able to kick it and stay sober and prosper in life is not very, it's not easy. So the fact that you were able to do that and your growth that you're going through, I just love hearing about all this. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's nice to think that it wasn't all just like in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know how I know we have a few more minutes here. If you don't mind, I just have one more question. I'm curious. In your journey through the meditation world, and I feel like for with Vipassana, there's this very pay attention to sensation and stay in your body. Like stay in your body. And maybe I got that wrong, so you can correct me if I misinterpreted some of that instruction. But like, and then in the world of like astral travel, this concept of Akashic record and or merging in with the larger consciousness system and tapping into the ability to travel. And then if we look at like non-dual Shaiva Tantra and some of the, I recently read Dr. Robert Svoboda's book, The Left-Hand Path, one that he has.
Oh, I've got the second one of those. I've read the second one.
And it was just like, wow, it blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of stuff going on there. So I'm curious, when you meditate, have you allowed yourself to investigate that world of travel through the, astral world, or do you feel like that's just a bunch of mental whirlpools that really take you away from a goal of, say, Vipassana style, just stay here, stay right here, don't travel out there? Any thoughts?
Oh man, like you saved the best stuff till last, man. Like this is the whole thing.
Dude, I know. Well, how much time do we have? Let me get my glasses. Like 53 minutes and 20 seconds. I mean, I try to keep my episodes to an hour so I don't scare people when they see the timestamp, and go, oh no, the 2-hour journey. I don't know if I can do it. So yeah, I guess just if you could briefly touch on it, I'm so curious to hear where you're at.
So, I've never done astral traveling or lucid dreaming, really. I've never been talented at that. I've never really had the time to learn. But my teacher now, so I don't still practice in Vipassana. For the last 4 years, is it? Like maybe 4 or 5 years. I've been practicing in the Thai forest tradition under Ajahn Achalo, who's an Australian monk, lives in Thailand. And the Thai forest tradition is mostly associated with Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho. Maybe those names are familiar to someone in your audience. But there's a lot of room for variety in that tradition. And Ajahn Achalo has been a great teacher for me because he's very into faith-based practices. And he talks a lot about magic powers. He talks a lot about meeting spirits and ghosts and these kind of things. I think these are things that happen to him and his teacher and other monks in his community. I was lucky it happened to me once. And that was fun. And he also affirmed my practice of magic because I was feeling a bit gloomy or guilty about practicing magic for stuff that I wanted. Like if there was like a special, if someone had a health problem, like we had some tests coming up, I would do magic for like perfect health, for example. Maybe even like getting a job when I didn't have a job. And I was sort of worried about that because it's just like, oh, this is a bit materialistic, right? And then Ajahn said to me, he was just like, no, man, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you make lots of merit after, because if you're using magic to get results, you're pulling forward. Because in Buddhism, it's similar to Hinduism. They have this concept of merit or good karma. It's there. It's your storehouse. You're sort of pulling forward from your accumulated good karma to create good effects in your life right now. So make sure you go and make lots of other good karma and merit to boost your supplies, if you like.
That's interesting.
I thought that was quite good advice.
That's cool. That's a really interesting way to look at it. Pulling from, if you're trying to manifest something in the present, you're actually pulling from your future potential good karma.
Yeah, so if you get results,
that's interesting.
You need to go and make a lot of merit. Go and do good things. Donate to your local Buddhist organizations.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. Good insight. All right, then I have time for one last question. What would you like to leave us with? Do you have any final words of I don't know, anything? Any other thing that you feel like I want to share this?
Well, I think Ashtanga, right? The Ashtanga community, it's in such a vulnerable place right now after Sharat died. And it's such a interesting place now that the community or Ashtanga as a school, it was so centered around the Joyce family and what was going on in Mysore. Like I never studied with Sharat, so was never really part of it. I've always been observing from the outside, but as someone who continues to be an outside observer, I think to have the center not there anymore, really. And then also the way I loved your episode with Satu Joyce, because I think she embodies what Ashtanga really is about nowadays,
Wasn't
where
that
it is about,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Didn't she have an incredible, like, humble, and I feel like has a very bright future, and not because so many people are going to flock to her, but more because she's grounded in not wanting that. I don't know. I just got a really nice vibe from her too. That's cool that you say that. Thank you.
yeah, because she sort of like has this attitude of making it, accessible. And there's a lot of stuff has been done about accessibility in Ashtanga. And a lot of people have left Ashtanga. Eddie Stern's a good example of someone who just put his hand up and said, guys, I've had back pain for years. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And we're sort of in that category now. And I think it's just a funny place. But I think it's actually positive. I think the Mysore thing had run its course. I think people were forcing it. I think the gossip was ridiculous and childish. And I think we're in a good place to like grow up and find out what Ashtanga is really good for in the modern world,
Yeah.
So I'm keen for the future, and I'll be there, even if I'm just doing half primary when I'm 70, I'll still be there somewhere.
Yes.
Come and say hi.
Yeah. Oh man, Nathan, thank you so much. This has been an honor and a pleasure. I really enjoyed this. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your evening. I know it's late in your day there, so thank you for mustering up some good energy for us here. And I look forward to sharing this episode, and I really appreciate everything that you shared. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Todd. This has been a privilege and a pleasure as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening all the way to this point. That takes commitment, and this long form content style of podcasting is really what fires me up and gets me excited. I hope you enjoyed this hour-ish long conversation that I had with Nathan Thompson. Remember to go visit him on his Substack. For those of you that don't use Substack yet, I highly recommend you sign up. It's a great blogging platform. His site is escapingsamsara.substack.com. We're also on there, nativeyoga.substack.com. And you can follow him on his Instagram at ESCSAMSARA, so short for Escaping Samsara. Check out his podcast, send him some love, let him know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All right. Every Friday, I got a new one for you. So I'll see you next Friday. Thank you. Native Yoga Toddcast is produced by myself. The theme music is dreamed up by Bryce Allen. If you like this show, let me know. If there's room for improvement, I want to hear that too. We are curious to know what you think and what you want more of, what I can improve. And if you have ideas for future guests or topics, please send us your thoughts to info@Native Yoga Center. You can find us at nativeyogacenter.com. And hey, if you did like this episode, share it with your friends, rate it and review, and join us next time.